It is the late 1910s in the desolate stretches of Texas. Long before dawn, a middle-aged man leaves his family in Houston and travels out to the oil fields. He spends his days and nights sleeping in the mud, right next to the screaming metal of a heavy rotary derrick, physically vibrating with the machinery to gauge what it's hitting thousands of feet below. He has lived this exact routine for 5 exhaustive years across Central and West Texas. He has poured $250,000 of borrowed capital into the dirt. He has drilled 3 massive wells. Every single one of them has come up dry. At nearly 40 years old, the man in this portrait is staring down total bankruptcy. This is Hugh Roy Cullen. In economics, a sunk cost refers to the dangerous human tendency to throw more money after a failed investment just because you've already spent so much. For Cullen, this latest dry hole was the end point of a timeline already defined by decades of financial defeat. His childhood provided no safety net. When Cullen was 4 years old, his father abandoned the family, forcing him out of school by the 5th grade. At age 12, he was working in a candy factory for $3 a week just to keep his mother and siblings fed. He eventually pulled himself out of the factories, relocating to the Oklahoma Territory to enter the Texas cotton trade. He built an independent brokerage from nothing, taking on the personal risk of buying physical crops from local farmers, using his own capital and credit. Then the panic of 1907 hit. An overnight credit freeze in New York cascaded through regional banks, causing cotton prices to collapse. Cullen's business was annihilated, and 10 years of painstakingly accumulated savings were wiped out in weeks. Desperate to support his wife and 5 children, he retreated to Houston and moved into real estate. He spent 4 years struggling in a market dominated by established power brokers, generating almost no income while his family lived on the edge of destitution. Most of us recognize that tightening in the chest, the anxiety of falling into debt, the fear of losing time, and the exhaustion of working relentlessly while others seem to move ahead. By 1920, carrying the weight of a childhood in sweatshops and $250,000 wasted in the mud, Cullen had reached the limit of his physical and financial endurance. In the early 1920s, major corporate syndicates like Gulf Oil and Sun Oil dominated the industry. They used university-trained geologists to identify and lock down the safest, most proven land in the state. Cullen had no formal technical training and virtually no capital left. Instead of competing with the majors for premium land, he used his remaining funds to buy the exact leases that the corporate experts had already drilled and abandoned as worthless. At the time, the industry followed a rigid logic. Most oil was found around subterranean salt domes, and rigs would drill directly into the center caprock. Due to mechanical and cost limitations, they stopped at 4,000 feet. If they hit nothing, they abandoned the well. Cullen developed a counter-theory. He believed the immense subterranean pressure of the rising salt dome had actually pushed the oil outward, away from the center. He hypothesized that the real reserves were pooling along the deep outer edges, a strategy he called flank drilling. To test this, he ordered his crews to ignore the standard 4,000-foot boundary. He forced the drill bits thousands of feet deeper into the earth, targeting a layer known as the Frio sands, far past the depth where the experts had given up. This wasn't a gamble based on luck, it was a bet against the consensus. Cullen's breakthrough was only possible because he used his own observations to find value where the industry's educated elite saw only barren rock. Reaching those depths required penetrating a geological nightmare called heaving shale. This volatile layer of clay would absorb drilling fluids, expand, and collapse back into the well, crushing steel pipes and bankrupting every operator who tried to drill through it. Cullen lived on the rig floor for weeks, devising engineering solutions to control the pressure, until his bit pierced the Yegua sands at Pierce Junction. The resulting gusher produced 2,500 barrels of oil a day, instantly erasing 20 years of failure. Cullen found oil because he maintained the pressure on his crews and his own depleted bank account, long after his better-funded competitors had retreated to their Houston offices. Most wildcatters sold their successful discoveries to major companies for a single cash payout. Cullen refused. He understood that multi-generational wealth came from keeping the mineral rights and collecting a continuous, compounding stream of royalties from every barrel produced. This structural discipline made him a billionaire. By the early 1930s, he discovered the Tom O'Connor Field, a mile-deep pool containing 500 million barrels of crude. The fifth-grade dropout had built one of the largest private fortunes in American history. In 1936, that empire was hit by a horrific tragedy. A heavy drilling derrick collapsed in the oil fields, instantly killing Cullen's only son and chosen heir, 31-year-old Roy Gustav. The billions of dollars Cullen pulled from the earth provided no protection from the lethal, violent reality of the industry that made him rich. In the years following his son's death, Cullen shifted his focus from the accumulation of wealth to its distribution. He began giving away 95% of his total fortune, funding the medical centers and universities that defined the landscape of modern Houston. Cullen was a polarizing, abrasive figure, often on the wrong side of history, but he remained a man who defined his life through the physical conquest of the earth. His life proves that success is rarely a matter of luck or formal education. It is what happens when you refuse to stop digging after the money is gone, after the experts have laughed, and the earth caves in.